Happy Friday. Welcome to everyone. Uh, Heather Cooper here with an amazing panel again. And thank you all for coming to spend some time with us again this Friday for a little weekly update. I'm passing out some mics, and we are going to start off with a little bit of news updates and just some things that are happening. And then we're going to talk some content creation. And we have a lot of the panel is here tonight. And thank you, AP is here to give us a little bit of insight on open source and different things that are happening out there that he is into and that he's aware of. But I will let, I'm rambling again, so I will let Taylor go ahead and say hello.
Hey guys, welcome. Another Friday, one of my favorite experiences of the week every week. So thank you for hosting this again this week, Heather. So I don't know how many of you guys were here for last week's or even like the previous ones, but we do these almost every Friday around the same time, 5 p.m. Eastern, converted to whatever your time zone is. So you can typically catch us here. And in the past, we have had these go on for hours. I think, what was the longest one we've ever had? Maybe almost like 4 hours or something like that. Like,
yeah, we get 4 hours.
Right? Like,
Remember when Sam Altman was fired?
That was the one. That was the one. But we had plenty of those on regular days too. So
yeah. But last week we did kind of test out a different format where we kept it short, sweet, to the point, nice and succinct without running on too long. And I think that it was we've gotten some good feedback about it. So until further notice, I think we are going to keep going with this like shorter hour-long format. I'm sure, Heather, that we'll have probably longer episodes, longer gatherings and spaces over certain topics. But I think that's what we're benchmarking as sort of the new normal for these. Is that right, Heather?
Yeah, I think, it was kind of nice to just go and relax. And it was a little bit of light outside, sort of. And that's cool because, there's so much happening. I guess we have to pace ourselves a little bit to get through the normal grind of AI because we have a big year coming up. Every month seems like there's something more that's coming on the horizon. So I guess everybody in this space, it's been a long year and we didn't really get a break. It's exhilarating, but it's also kind of wears you out. So,
I mean, we should get all the rest we can before March happens, right? Because remember last March and April, holy shizzlenits. That was absolutely crazy when like literally everything dropped simultaneously. So,
So wait, what all happened?
GPT-4, Midjourney V4. I mean, there was all the Stable Diffusion stuff. I mean, holy crap, the list goes on and on. Everyone was like, Runway, Gen 1 came out, and then Gen 2 was touted. Yeah, it was like just back to back. The Microsoft did a bunch of announcements about Copilot, and it was just like, gosh.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so I guess we have a little bit of warning now to think about it, but that's true. There's so much going on, even to catalog what's happening right now to be able to kind of measure how much of an impact this stuff will be that's coming down the line. But I know it's just interesting to see all these different things coming together and the different how we're starting to the multimodal is just it and so many different things that are we're able to pull together. But I do want to mention real fast before we get started all the way, but please everyone any questions that you have or comments, if you have tools or products, please put them in the chat and go ahead and enter that there. And we're going to try to keep monitor that throughout this hour and, look around. And we appreciate the emojis if you let us know how it sounds. And if, you like something that you hear, if you don't like it, let us know. And we're just going to kind of go around and we have a couple of topics we were going to talk about. I see Linus down there. Hello, Linus. And Jeremiah, Stephen, there's a lot of great people here. Thank you, everybody. And Linus, let me know if you need the mic. And I wanted to ask Rob about what was going on with 11 Labs, if you don't mind.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
What is up? Let me grab this link for you real quick. So talk for like 10 more seconds, Heather.
Sorry, I put you on the spot too fast. But Bilal, what's up? Are you ready? Lumiere?
Oh gosh, yeah. I can start off with Lumiere. Alrighty. So amongst many things that happened this past week, Google very quietly dropped an AI paper called Lumiere, obviously homage to Lumiere Brothers, that iconic movie that you've heard about, where it's like a showing of a train station, a train arriving at the train station, and people freak out and they're like, "Oh my God, like this is gonna come out of the screen." So that's sort of the background. But let me pin up the post very quickly here, and then I will talk through it for y'all. Now, obviously, a big caveat with all of this is just a paper and results release. We do not have access to a demo. We also obviously do not have access to code because this is a closed source model. But there are some very interesting things about it. The first one is that this one model does video in painting, image to video to video, like the list goes on. It kind of does it all. And they've introduced this new technique called space-time diffusion. And no, this is not an Interstellar reference, although that is certainly the image that comes to mind for me when Matthew McConaughey and crew are traveling on the curvature of the black hole. But basically, it utilizes this new architecture they're calling a space-time UNet that generates the full duration of the video in one pass. Basically, every other work out there basically creates these like distant keyframes and then interpolates between them. And the problem with doing these distinct keyframes is when you interpolate between them, you can have those like temporal inconsistencies. You may have seen, if you have a character or an object that's like, either the camera's orbiting around it or the character's moving, it'll drastically change structure. So that problem is completely solved. Another benefit is that you can direct the video generation process more easily. You can do unconditioned generation as well, but you can condition it with things like, basically, if you want to throw in like video and painting masks and things like that, you can throw that in there as well. And according to the paper, at least, it seems like this is the new state of the art for AI video generation. They did this user study results in the paper, which is basically a bunch of human evaluators are going to take a look at the same prompt and generation between Lumiere, Runway Gen 2, Pika Labs, Stable Video Diffusion, and then across the board, Lumiere came out ahead. So, of course, this is where I say, like, as always, we need to get hands-on with this stuff. I think, Google, perhaps rightly so, got a bit of criticism about embellishing their Gemini demo. And, I've certainly seen a lot of skepticism online about people like, well, I don't really care unless I can use it. Now, this is where I'll close this up by saying, like, where could this end up? My guess is YouTube seems like the front row, like, contender for this, right? Like, the video and painting tech is super exciting to me, but based on what YouTube announced last year in September, something called Dream Screen and also text to video, and based on the list of acknowledgments in the paper, there's a lot of YouTube folks on there. I've got a feeling that would be the natural launch conduit for this. Of course, we could probably expect to see a developer API as well. So link the thread up top if y'all want to check it out. Super exciting. And I wouldn't be surprised if the open source community also just sees this paper and is able to reproduce the results, taking advantage of this sort of like generating the whole video at once versus, lurping between a bunch of keyframes.
Sorry, I had my mic on there. I was making noise in the background. This is so cool. If you look at the footage, and granted, this is select footage, so it could be very like hand-picked, but the movement, the motion, the camera work, the character, like the human expressions, all much more natural looking than what I'm used to getting in tools like Runway. And I think that Olive, my new puppy, is attacking Siri. That's not good. I think that all of this is due to that, what you're talking about not kind of figuring out the keyframes and then trying to get from A to B. That's probably what leads to this sort of unnatural, oh my God, is it playing music now? Guys, puppies. So funny.
Wait, did your dog activate Siri?
I know. I have no idea what happened.
Puppy.
I think she somehow managed to press play on my HomePod. She's just really curious about what's going on over here by my desk. Anyway, so yeah, the video aspect of this, getting so accurate, getting so lifelike, looking like real footage, and not having to kind of like roll the dice and hope it kind of looks real. I think we're going to see a huge leap forward when this becomes available. I'm hoping it's, even a fifth as good as the demo footage, because it just looks amazing.
What were you saying about YouTube, Malavo, about the green screen? Is that going to be integrated like with the YouTube Studio?
Yeah, that's one of the things that was showcased in September. I'll pin that post too if I can find it. There we go. Here we go. So actually, it was a really fascinating announcement last September. A bunch of stuff was announced. A lot of things that were like, kind of teased and talked about, like auto dubbing, music search, you being able to get personalized AI insights in your like YouTube creator dashboard, and also a dedicated editing app, which, by the way, as I'm talking about it, YouTube's making basically a CapCut-like equivalent companion mobile app that's wholly dedicated to stuff. And if you look at how ByteDance operates, very often they'll launch a capability. For example, there's a bunch of these like 3D photo / kind of like hyperlapse animation type things, like Ken Burns effect types, like filters that were going viral last year, that first ended up in CapCut and then it graduated to TikTok proper. And so I wonder if YouTube could set up something similar with this YouTube Create app. But the one I'm talking about is called Dream Screen. There's only samples online right now of like select creators that tried it out for the announcement event. But basically you can use a text prompt to type in any background, right? So it's like just green screen or segmentation a la green screen, and then you can key in a background. But they also showed text to video. I was like a panda drinking some coffee, stuff like that. I think that's the video that's in the thread that I just pinned up here. So yeah, I would speculate that would be a very awesome launch conduit for this stuff, especially the video-to-video stuff. They call it video stylization in the paper, but like building on Rob's point about that temporal consistency, like that's another thing, right? Like if you want to mirror the structure of the video strongly, like seems to produce some very, very compelling results. And then you can do selective in-painting stuff, like kind of what you can do with Pika today, but again, more temporally coherent. Again, I have to put the caveat, like, yeah, these may be cherry-picked results. They do have this like user study out there, but we gotta play with this stuff. But how exciting. It might be a cool year for YouTube where we might start seeing a bunch of investments that Google's been making this past year and teasing out actually showing up in consumer products that impacts the lives of creators.
What's so interesting about that? I love that you brought all that up, Bilal, because I didn't see that stuff about the editing tools and the suite of tools that they did, but maybe like a month or two ago, they also launched that AI music generator that's freaking like insane. And just thinking about this and like sort of the conversation I was having with Heather before about just like being a content creator and how, how we can make these things easier for ourselves, like YouTube getting in the game in that sort of way, I think would be so, I mean, if you could just gen music, your video, cut and edit everything in just one freaking place, that would be just an insane, amazing.
Yeah, that's the hard part right now, is trying to figure out, okay, wait, no, I have to go and find this here and go, do that there. And yeah, that would definitely help a lot. And we are definitely going to talk about that. So I'm so glad that we are speaking about this. And did I miss it? But when is it going to be available to the general public?
This is a classic Google announcement where it's been announced, but there's no actual date yet at the moment. So hopefully this year. So this is like years a long window. I hope sometime within the year we get to start playing with this stuff.
Well, AP, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think like it's really interesting too, like the style consistency, like the temporal consistency. Like I'm just trying to think of like the closest equivalent to what you can get today. And I just pinned up, it was by Citizen Playing Nathan Shipley. It's essentially using Animate Diff to sort of take a video and I guess rotoscope it or like animate it. And in the example, if you'll see it, it's like a paper cut style that he was able to like temporally do. But the problem with it is it's like in Comfy UI, it is really difficult to set up and it's not really user friendly. To be honest, I struggle with this stuff as well. But yeah, that's like the best in open source right now. But I definitely think it'll improve, but yeah, I'm really interested to see where like Google goes with this stuff.
Also, I think it's a creative where like, like Nathan's obviously using a aesthetic that sort of hides some of the temporal inconsistencies too, right? Like sort of these flatter shapes that sort of like origami style, like blend into each other. Like it's truly a phenomenal video, and it's like it's an IP adapter. Like can you actually? I'd be kind of curious. I haven't been keeping as much up to date with all the IP adapter stuff. What exactly is that? Is that just like a way? Is that like ControlNet? What exactly is that? I would love to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, so the IP adapter stuff are really interesting. There's like so like the way I describe it, and this is probably like incorrect. A pharmapsychotic who's in the chat could probably describe it better, but it's essentially like a one-shot LoRa, meaning like you can just take one image and then use that as a reference. So it's really good at like applying like styles, and then most recently, you've probably seen the ones going really viral, which are like the face versions of that, the face IP adapters. Those have been going kind of crazy on Hugging Face. And those are like, you put like one image of yourself and now you can get those like headshots or portraits and it understands what you look like. So the IP adapters in these workflows are really powerful for that. And so I think this workflow here, excuse me, he's using like a reference image or he's using some type of LoRa. And it's essentially using the IP adapter to help maintain that like style consistency. And there's like a lot of really cool workflows happening. The best place to find them is the Banadoko Discord. Shout out to Palm. But yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on with like IP adapters. But like I said, it's really like obscure right now and really hard to use. Like I said, I struggle with it in like my collab environment. But yeah, really cool stuff going on in there.
I don't know how to follow that. Like, how long do you think it would be before regular people could probably use these kind of things? The way things have been moving so far, like maybe like 6 months or.
So like I know that people know, and like startups know that like Comfy UI has a lot of potential, and people want to make it easier to use because it's honestly really hard, in my opinion. Some people say it's really easy, but I think they're just really smart. But I think that like I know Civet AI is working on like something like that so that you could go and easily run Comfy workflows. Comfy Deploy is working on it. A lot of people are working on it right now, but it's still so early that the best way to do it is like to go into that Discord that I mentioned and just like see what's going on. There was another really interesting video that I shared earlier today. Let me find it. I think I sent it to you, Heather. Let me go ahead and post it up. But essentially, there's this new animate diff motion module called Sparse Control. And essentially what it does is like you can give it different images and it kind of like interpolates between it. And so it's really cool, I think, for like animation. I think it'll be really powerful in manga. But like the problem is that like with animate diff, it's like really hard to control it and it can be like so wildly crazy. But it's a really powerful tool, and I think really great for like local people that they love to, queue up 20 different workflows and choose the best one if they have a powerful enough GPU. But yeah, definitely check out Comfy UI, Animate Diff. All these things are really, really awesome.
Well, I was mentioning to you that when I was using the Deforum beta app, that how I was amazed at like the character consistency with you just using the same prompt. And I just kind of changed. I use the same prompt and the same preset, I guess, or the style. And I'd used none actually, but I did 3 or 4 videos in succession. But I didn't use a seed or anything like that. I just went ahead and ran it again. In all the videos, they were very similar, and it's very smooth too. So I was amazed to see, and you can pick the different types of motion. You have quite a few to pick from on there, so it's not just a typical deform, in and out, and the different types of transformations. But that was amazing. So, what do you think? I guess it seems like you've been able to achieve more control on that.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's a lot of thanks to the work of like 2 people on mostly the Deforum studio team. They've been working a lot to make sure that there's like style consistency. And all those things are capable in like the Deforum open source repo. But like the goal with like the Deforum studio is to make Deforum, which is I think a really awesome and like unique and funky tool, and just make it like really easy to use, right? Like traditionally it's Deforum is kind of like Comfy UI, where you can do a lot of really awesome stuff, but it's just like so freaking hard to use, right? And like I struggle running the forum locally myself. I struggle with like animate diff locally myself. So the forum studio, you know, we're working to make like the forum really easy to use. And then, yeah, all these other startups, I think pretty soon, maybe honestly, if I were to put a timeline, maybe within like 2 to 3 months, Comfy UI will be really easy to use. But yeah, the forum, I guess that's kind of like a segue into like another thing is like, I think it's really interesting how a lot of like musicians have been using AI lately. And I'm not sure if anybody wanted to talk about this more, but like there's Kanye, Nicki Minaj, Guns N' Roses just did a video with the forum, which was like super crazy. Yeah, it's been kind of wild.
I've been following this obviously because I'm obsessed with AI music. So I'm just like obsessed with AI and whatever's going on in music. But yeah, suddenly like I think it's so cool because like ever since last year where I did the competition with Peter Gabriel, and it was like this huge like upset of like, oh, Peter Gabriel's using AI, and like he was getting just crapped on by everybody, crapped on by like you know, the industry and all this kind of stuff. And now it's kind of like boom, boom, boom. We're seeing all of these big names suddenly using it and just seeing how cool the art is. But the thing that I thought was the coolest was the Nicki Minaj thing, because it was such an amazing example of community and like how to use these tools to like bring together your community, as opposed to like you know, the Guns N' Roses or something where they're just like, you know, probably like paying an artist to just make like a music video. Like, so I don't know if everyone knows what happened, but Nicki Minaj's community basically started memeing, like creating AI art around a drop that she was coming up, and it just blew up, and it became almost like this entire new world that the community was creating. And then she ended up using it a little bit for like making some like music videos and stuff. But like, what a cool new experience to be able to like you know, basically like co-produce stuff with like the talent that you love.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that at some point because Taylor brought it up last week, and I have been following it because one of my kids mentioned it to me because it was AI art, basically. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Gag City. And it was a whole ecosystem that was happening that was all generative AI. And most of the AI community didn't seem to notice, but it was pretty genius. And it was like an interesting way for marketing in the future, because the brands that were involved with that, it was like all across the board. And every big name brand, luxury brands, X was on there. They all had, you know, space in Gag City in this, you know, generative AI universe. And it went and coincided with the music, and it just worked out perfectly because it was all promo and it was flashy, and, you know, people could easily get on to the pink, you know, the different types of, I didn't realize how many color pinks there were, but it was just really cool. And it was fun to be a part of, and it was hashtags trending on here, but I don't think a lot of us noticed it. But I think that would be an interesting case study to see. And Forbes magazine covered it. There were a lot of articles about it. So it could be something that would be interesting in integrating musicians in the future.
Right. So like, I'm seeing a new era of artist engagement with their audience here. And so what we kind of saw in the last 20 to 30 years was a shift from selling albums like in a record store, CDs and stuff like that, to streaming. And because streaming eroded some of the, you know, revenue potential for artists, a lot of artists moved to live you know, events to monetize, and also merch and some other things. And then with the internet, we also saw the emergence of a lot of these really interesting kind of guerrilla or like atypical marketing campaigns where it's like, I'm going to drop my album without even telling anybody it's coming. And like all of a sudden Taylor Swift or Beyonce or whoever is like, ta-da, look, brand new album, like didn't tell you about it. Now we're kind of getting into a new world where you can co-create with artists, where and we saw this a little bit with Grimes and some others, but like Grimes is a little bit sus, it's just kind of weird. She named her kid after like elf language. Didn't go super mainstream, was more for like techies. But now we have like Nicki Minaj, that's a household name, right? And so I think that involving AI to co-create, to become part of that artist and create an experience with their IP and you like as a fan, it's just such a cool thing for people to do. And I think that this is the beginning of what I see as like a major shift over the next maybe 2 decades in how we interact with artists. Maybe not even just musical artists, but eventually other kinds of art too. Like think about your favorite TV show. Like what if it's a Pokemon cartoon and all of a sudden kids can create their own Pokemon and animate them and do stuff. There's so many opportunities here to let the fans in and to create for the first time really fun interactive experiences that are actually satisfying and not just kind of gimmicky little crappy web games. I am really excited to see this kind of hitting mainstream, and I think 2024 is going to be a big year to see, just what's possible with this kind of, audience engagement.
And just building on that, it's such a good point that it's almost good that the AI community wasn't involved. And this is like Nicki Minaj's fan base that like knows her music, the world that they're building together, right? This is truly collaborative world building. I think it's like super fascinating. And I was kind of fazed by some of the criticisms. Like this is the same thing that comes up again. Like I've got this one article pulled up where it's like around the average, the medium, hallucinated mediocrity. It's like, STFU, dude. Like this is like an entire community of people that are building a world together that would not, like, you're literally breaking the barriers to create this sort of visual medium that you could not have done previously. And the fact that you're doing it as a community, it's like a distributed version of those like Discord, like mid-journey sessions where everyone's like prompting a world together and you converge towards a similar aesthetic. This is just happening in a more distributed fashion. And I think that's beautiful and glorious. Like this is, I don't want to use the metaverse word because it's all spatial computing now apparently, but it's like, this to me is like the earliest instantiations of that so-called metaverse. Except now you don't need to learn how to use like Roblox editor or some complicated tool to make stuff. You've got an idea and you go into like DALL-E or Midjourney or whatever, and you can create it yourself. So that's absolutely amazing.
I think what's really interesting too is you're really seeing a lot of this within the musical community, a lot, and not just with the art, but also with the music itself. Like this year, it's been really crazy just the way that musicians are starting to use AI as like a collaborative thing with their community. Like Disclosure just dropped that huge NFT thing where basically you could go and like create a song of like your own Disclosure song because they created like an AI model based off of their thing, based off of their music. Or there's these concerts that are going on right now, which is like insane, where you can go in and you'll gen tracks yourself, and then the people up on the stage will use the community's like generated tracks to then like live make music. So there's a lot of like really insane stuff that's going on that I specifically see in the music community, and I don't know if it's maybe because they're just more collaborative in nature or what, but I think it's going to be really big this year.
And that's why we want to have next week, we're going to kind of focus more on the AI music, and Amelie's going to help out with that. And I really appreciate that because there are so many different questions that we have and would like to learn about different aspects of using music or sounds with AI, and whether it's with just regular posts or with videos or films, copyright, all the different things that are involved, how to prompt for it, all that. Go ahead, AP.
Yeah, I think like for myself, I'm really excited about the progress in music, generative music, because I just think that like now the tools with like generative like visuals is getting there so that the audio synchronization is going to be like insane this year. And I just think there's going to be like so much power given to people who want to make like their own little music videos. Like we're seeing some of it coming out in like the Animate Diff community. The forum, we have some stuff cooking there. Like I think it's just going to be really, really awesome. This coming year.
And
Right.
also, like editing too. Like how do you edit music and that a lot of that. I don't know what tools to use necessarily that are user friendly for somebody who doesn't normally work with that. Go ahead, Rob. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say this is a perfect segue to my, talking about 11 Labs that I fumbled earlier, which is, so 11 Labs, as you guys recall, is speech synthesis primarily, and they had been the kind of cream of the crop text-to-speech engine for quite some time. In fact, I started my podcast with Ruby AI because I finally had a voice engine that sounded good enough to want to listen to in your headphones for more than like 10 seconds without killing yourself. Well, 11 Labs has been quietly releasing some really amazing features, including speech-to-speech, where you can take your voice and turn it into a different voice, which I think is going to be amazing for creators who are doing podcasts, audiobooks, web content, like animated content, things like that. Really powerful. But another thing that they've been doing, and part of their mission statement overall, is to enable seamless translation of audio into other languages. And what we did is we saw this and let me share it to the space. So there's this Argentina's new president, Javier, how do you say his last name? Milei, has been really popular in the media because he's kind of the first hardcore libertarian ruler of a country in some time, and it says all sorts of weird stuff, and gets some people are like, yeah, I love what he's saying, and other people are like, oh my god, this guy's insane. Really fascinating guy to watch. And for the first time, we had his sort of I forget which speech this was. 2024 Davos, translated into English, synced to his lip movement, and also done in his own voice, his own accent, but still in English, not in Spanish. So it is here. It is kind of arriving right now. I'm not 100% sure that the clip that I shared is is 11 Labs or one of their competitors, but we're basically at that moment where I think the entire global community is going to see a reduction in barriers in the ability to consume all this media. So if you think about the trend again, we are going from, only really high budget TV shows and movies, hiring actors to like dub, in the native language, and then the lips don't match. And so it's kind of annoying to watch the dub and you almost rather read the subtitles. That's what we have today. And what we have now in the future, which we now sort of also have today, is the ability potentially to AI generate all that audio in the act, like taking the actor's performance, taking the nuance of their emotions and their accent, and putting that in and adjusting their mouth movements. I think that this is amazing, not just for big media content like films, but also for content like eventually you're going to be able to see a video on Twitter. You could be watching me make this exact rant that I'm doing right now in Chinese, in Korean, in Spanish, in French, in English, in German, and it would all be me. And I think that it's going to bring the world together in a way that we've never really seen before, where we can finally kind of understand other cultures and consume media, no matter what country it's from, no matter what nationality the person who created it is. And I hope my sort of utopian view is that by being able to interact more with others, that we see how similar we are, and that it makes the world a better place. Probably it'll be like a bunch of deep fake, crazy videos of presidents saying things that they didn't say and other things too. But to me, this is absolutely massive, and it's just going to transform media entirely.
Linus, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think this is Rob is on it here. I've been talking about this for a very long time. How I think the most impressive thing that we will see come out of LLMs is going to be the language thing. I think I made something back in September where I used HeyGen, which is using 11 Labs behind the scenes to do the audio part to basically show that it is possible to basically go and take your content and do lip syncing and everything in a very simple workflow. I think we'll see this becoming baked in all major platforms pretty soon. It's also part of what I think YouTube is working on. So like getting native support for this. I think what's key to understand is like dubbing without lip movement is quite boring. But once you include wave to lip, which is like the underlying model for masking out and just working with the lip movements, things get truly magical. And the Mila video was done using HeyGen, and the audio is then done using 11 Labs because HeyGen is using 11 Labs. So I just wanted to point that in.
You know what's also cool about this is just like not just new content. It's like this, like all the this massive corpus of content in other languages that already exists that will become accessible is like crazy. You know, it's like the first, you know, a lot of people watch anime and are used to subtitles, but I totally agree with Linus. It's like, unless you have the synchronized audio and the visuals like kind of working in concert, it's like jarring to change the audio track in like a Netflix movie or something like that. But it's like, I saw this like, I'm a bit of a sci-fi nerd, and there's this like 10-cent version of like Three Body Problem. You know, it's on Amazon Prime, Chinese show, made for like 10 million, which is kind of astounding because there's like a way more expensive show coming out soon. And yeah, like all I could wish was like, oh my God, I just wish this was like dubbed properly with the HeyGen thing. And I just love that like that WEF moment kind of pushed that message so much farther. And like it just wouldn't have gone as viral, that message, if it wasn't like in the native tongue of English or whatever other language that it was translated into. Subtitles just don't do it justice. I think it's like, while there's a deglobalizing effect happening in the world in terms of like borders clamping down and, you know, potentially, you know, some rivalries flaring up again, but at the same time, we're going to be more connected than ever before. And then you fast forward a little bit further, and then you really get those like AR demos of like talking to anyone and having instant translation with minimal latency. And so I'm just super excited about more of these like barriers being closed down, because there's such good shows out there that are just made in different languages that, you know, a lot more people will be able to consume now, and just really good ideas that certainly are worth sharing.
Right. And imagine if you're a product creator, being like I sell courses and other educational stuff. And a lot of people in this forum do that, or they do coaching, other things like that. Imagine a world where anyone can be your client, not just people who speak your language. I think that there's some real significant opportunities here. And honestly, like I would be excited to be coached or trained by somebody, you know, whose language I didn't speak. There's a lot of cool stuff that's going on in other countries. Like I'm in the US, and where like it's Korea that's pushing the envelope on web comics or something like that. And if that was my passion, I would freaking love to be mentored by like somebody who's at the heart of that movement. You know, like, so, and I think for all of us, there's probably some little passion, something we're interested in that we just don't have access to. And I think AI is going to deliver it to us, and probably sooner than we think.
Yeah, I think the key thing to really point out here is that the network of the world is like 8 billion nodes. And I think I mentioned this maybe a few weeks ago, but even if you speak one of the major languages like English or Chinese or Spanish, you're still only able to communicate with roughly 20% of the network in your native tongue. So the number of people that actually speaks more than the 3 major languages are ridiculously small. We're talking on principle like less than 1%. So actually the power of the network is less than 20% of the total network output. So by making it easy for everyone to communicate and everyone to kind of seamlessly communicate in their own language, the power of the network grows and becomes ultimately the 8 billion people that lives on the planet. So for me, for example, I'm a native speaker in Swedish, and if I never knew how to speak in English, I would be confined to learn and engage with only 10 million people out of the entirety of the world. So as dull as translation and this type of real-time audio seems, it's possibly the biggest thing that we will get in terms of output from large language models in general.
Can I jump in and say that I think the accessibility that I mean, really all of us have touched on here is what I'm really excited about, and continuing to see it unfold. So I live in New York City, and I'm very fortunate to be in a city where there is a lot of accessibility services and programs for people that need them. However, it's not that way for everyone. It's certainly not that way in every part of the world. And a lot of times the products or services that you do need for accessibility, I'm talking about things like, language synthesis, or, services for those that are hearing impaired or visually impaired. It's hard to come by. It's expensive to come by. And so this technology not only enables connection with all of us across the board, but it has this ability to drive down some of the costs that public programs can bring to implement some of these things. So overall, just a really exciting time. And I think it's going to equalize the playing field more than ever for all of us.
Right. Think of just the dollar cost 10 years ago to translate an article or a book or something. We're talking massive, right? As many of you guys know, I've published a whole bunch of indie romance novels in very spicy categories on Amazon. And I looked into what if I could publish my books in a bunch of different languages? I think they would do great in German. I think they would do great in Japanese. Way crazy expensive. And when you're making only $1,000 on a book because you wrote it super fast and it's for a niche audience, you can't spend $1,000 to translate it and hope that it goes on to make more. Plus, if you don't know the language, you have no ability without hiring another person to quality check if the translation's any good. And now we're at the point where to translate something, it's not even about cost, except for a lot of content. It's just about the time and the decision to host it and how to organize it, and whether or not you want to go out to the audience in a different language and say, hey, I've got this for you in your own language as well. It's almost like a non-starter at this point if you want to translate text content, at least. And I think we're going to see that with video and audio too.
No, I'm excited about that too, because I've always felt like the accessibility issue in making inclusive content was originally what I did on this platform, talking about that in visual content is important because, people can understand visual images better than text or faster than text. But it breaks down those barriers for people when you don't have to worry about what the text is. And when you can add in accurate translation with dubbing on where it's matching, it's we're in the future now. That's just amazing on how many doors it will be able to open. And even within schools, my children's school, I live in Atlanta, but there are multiple languages spoken in the schools. And even if it's just Spanish, which is the second most common language in the U.S., for the kids who have, say they're preparing for college or university here, their parents are coming in and they have oftentimes the students are translating that information where they need details that if the parent could understand it in a way that, made sense, they would be able to go ahead, and that child deserves as much of a opportunity as a child who speaks English in these schools where, they send home information that's in bilingual. But you could have it so that they could just play a recording, right? And they could listen to it in their language where they have the principal or whoever the administrator speaking in that appropriate language for them, whichever one they select. So I just think just the little things like that give people an opportunity to make a living or to do whatever that they can do, where they're making these new apps or discovering a cure to whatever. They need the opportunity too. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, Heather, I think real-time audio will be here this year. Literally, you can just go into a conversation with your phone on the table and your whatever headset or whatever you have in your ears, and you more or less will have a sub 1 second latency real-time conversation. So it's not even talking for 2 minutes and then listening back to a recording. It will be real time, and we'll see that happen this year. It's one of my first predictions of 2024. but I'm already seeing a lot of the technology being there. It's just a matter of who builds it first.
I have a bit of a philosophical point to just build off of this conversation, where something like this, where automatic, automatic translation, like audio to audio in real time or async, is super powerful and largely seems like a force for good, right? And then I start thinking about the other modalities, like when I start thinking about sort of perception capabilities and vision. I saw a lot of these Apple Vision Pro videos, and Linus, you've put some of these videos on you showcase some of these use cases of perception tech where, you've got security cameras looking at baristas to check their efficiency, right? And the immediate thing I keep thinking about is like, there's this invisible layer of metadata, or that's, kind of perhaps Zoom or whatever, any popular video chat app could compute, but now it will be more and more democratized. And I keep wondering how that's going to change interpersonal interactions. Like, imagine if we're on a Zoom call, but I have like the subtlest facial cue changes, emotional changes that you make. I've got a model telling me like, oh, you're negotiating. It's like, oh, lie detected, they're bluffing, etc. Right? Like, what would that do to human interactions when we surface this invisible layer of metadata that perhaps some humans, subconsciously are very astute at and can have this like gut feeling, but now machines can be a little bit more reductionist about it and surface it. It's gonna get kind of wild,
right?
Actually, Hume AI is doing some really interesting stuff there. I'm not sure if you've seen the latest round. So Hume has been around for a bit more than a year. And I think just a few days ago, they started making rounds with this video going viral with a marker around someone's face, but then giving you like a gazillion data points on emotions and like expressions and everything. So it's not even science fiction anymore. It doesn't have to be actually even run on the software. You can have it run locally and no one even knows that you're running it. So in these type of situations, it can be really tricky. And it's super interesting, but also double-edged sword.
I was going to say, I've also played with Deering's technology for analyzing the voice and reading things like vocal tremors and excitement levels. And I think they track 168 different qualities of your voice to gauge what's your emotion or sentiment based on your voice. On the one hand, I think that this is massive because you could have an AI model talking to a person and know if they're being sarcastic or serious, or if they're, slightly offended or really offended, just based on the voice. But it definitely kind of like the visual cues, lots of interesting perception stuff going on. I think we're also going to see like a lie detector phenomenon where it's accurate most of the time, but because you can't prove that it's 100% accurate, it gets really awkward and weird for society because we're like, well, either he's lying or he's weird and awkward. And then it's like you have people, let's say, with invisible disabilities or neurodivergent, and some autistic kid is assumed to be a psychopath because that's what the AI model thinks, because there's not enough emotion in his voice, but it's actually something else. I think there's going to be a lot of false positives that we're going to have to work around, and probably some false negatives as well. Lots of just really interesting, weird, and often dystopian stuff. I'm really hoping for the other side of it, though, that your AI will be able to understand how emphatic you are when you give it that command as well.
I love the positivity, but it's like always. We always get we get both futures simultaneously is what it seems like. So yeah, I'm also very partial to the double-edged sword sort of positioning of this. And I keep thinking about what would be the defensive measures. There's this word, right? Like when people say, oh, that person's so enigmatic, like they're so hard to read. I feel like is that going to be a trait that becomes more and more valued, where people are like experts at like you can learn to pass a lie detector test. People are going to learn how to sort of feel their emotions in these type of scenarios more so. It's like just, again, this like invisible layer of data that just, is going to be layered on top of everything we have today. Again, we don't need anything new, to Linus's point. Like, we're already doing video conferencing. We're doing FaceTime calls. Most of these things have like, face filters where they're totally capable of doing, real-time facial, pose estimation for your facial landmarks and things like that. And Yeah, you layer other clever stuff on top of that. The voice modality thing is equally fascinating, because even people in a phone call are perceptive enough to tell, hey, like, you feel kind of down, right? Like, and so having an AI or assistant sort of adjusting things or playing the right sort of music to pick you up, there can be so many positive applications too. But, I can't help but think of the other side of that. And if we're sort of ready, like back to HeyGen, I was just looking at this for this other project that I'm a part of. But basically, it's like, I was looking at the Zelensky video that went viral a year ago, where basically Zelensky is saying like, hey, we're surrendering, the Russians win, essentially. And that video is just so god awful. You look at it now, it's like nobody would believe this is real. Like, even the audio seems wonky, and the visual, if you just go on YouTube, I think The Guardian has it on their YouTube channel. It's just terrible. And I just imagine like all the stuff we have now, and like with the elections around the corner, I think it's going to get very, very interesting indeed.
I got a fun, quick prediction. If you have a weird face that has like you were born without 4 of the facial muscles, and so you like don't make certain expressions, or if you have some kind of disorder where you don't react like a normal person, you have a career where you make like $50 million a year as a negotiator for like, big corporates and stuff like that, because you're undetectable. People can't read you with the AI, and therefore they send you in to cut their big deals. I'm calling it now, guys. This is weird face people are going to be valuable in the future.
Or if you want to be impervious to HeyGen for now, just grow a beard, right? So for those of us that have beards, maybe have like a couple months before we're going to have really good replicas of us, and then the beard too shall fall, unfortunately.
Man, that is so. I'm like, we're trying to. This is a great conversation, and I feel like, man, I wish we were back to our 2 or 3 hours, but we are going to try to stick to it. I do want to ask Matthew. I gave you the mic, and I just wanted to say if you could give us your thoughts for a minute or two, and Samantha, I think we're getting you the mic too. So, and then we'll try to get out of here in the next few minutes. But thank you for coming, Matthew.
Hi, thanks very much. Great to listen to you all in the world. I'm listening to you. You're from a British guy in the south of Spain. So I agree with everything you're saying. I mean, I've sort of, let's see, my background is sort of languages and linguistics, and then I've been 20 years in translation and journalism. So all of this stuff, this AI stuff is extremely powerful, as you're all saying. I agree with a whole lot of it. From the creative point of view, it's absolutely, the possibilities are mind-blowing in terms of human communication and creativity. But the journalism side of me kind of says, wait a minute here. There's going to be some extreme negative stuff as well when the not-so-nice people get hold of this and realize what's possible now already with this technology, like with this Millet video the other day. I mean, in terms of English and Spanish, watching the Spanish version first and then the English version, it was absolutely credible watching his lips synchronized, and the accent was could easily have been Millet speaking in English if he really spoke English. And then it was interesting to watch the pickup it got in the States on Twitter in the US. And I think basically it was sort of the same ideological crowd in the US picked up on the ideological point. So we go to global dubbed, instant dubbed and translated ideological polarized politics or something strange like that. But I wonder if you have any thoughts on that, and also on what it does to sort of creative and media attention anyway, generally, in terms of content and programs and the whole thing, because there's just going to be a huge flood of it. I remember there was a post from Adobe a couple of months ago, I think it was like the middle of October, when they were talking about Firefly and how people had started to use AI stuff in Photoshop and Illustrator and things. And they said something like the people using it, even up to that point in their sort of experiment, they'd done 3 billion images or something. So there's just going to be a massive flood of content.
Right. Well, so one of the major changes that we've seen in the last 5 years or something like that is with the rise of TikTok and other dopamine addiction sort of driven social platforms, more and more internet content that's around, like just hooking you giving you these short, quick, like blah, lighting up your brain kind of moments. And we've seen a lot of polarizing content do a great job with that. We've seen titillating content do a great job with that. People are kind of getting drawn and sucked into this stuff that goes after some of our baser reptilian brain, our evolution that hasn't really evolved to handle the modern world, where these kinds of reactions would have been good, 5,000 years ago. But I don't know if we need to be so crazy interested in endlessly scrolling TikTok now. I absolutely agree that these technologies have the potential to amplify that even further, right? If we have these polarizing politicians from all over the world creating microcultures on the internet of people, and I'm not saying necessarily that any particular person is full of lies or saying things that are incorrect, but there are communities out there on the internet where there's just factually a lot of problematic stuff going on, and it leads to violence, hate crimes, unrest, weird elections where candidates who are unqualified for the role that they're going to be elected to get put in positions of immense power and command over nuclear warheads and stuff. Like, all of this is possible, and I think it's something that is unstoppable in a way that it's going to try to happen, and it's really going to be up to society to figure out how do we respond to this, because it doesn't feel like it's going to go any other way.
I think we're going to go to a very, very strange place globally in terms of media and attention and what's even true and who we can even trust. I don't know with those of you who have used HeyGen and 11 Labs. I haven't used it myself yet, but looking at Millet the other day and sort of looking into how it worked, I'm sure it would be possible as well, technically already looking at the Millet video, to do political hit job videos in the same language too. So you could take like a video of Trump and Trump's voice, say, and train 11 Labs voices or HeyGen or whatever it is to do Trump's voice, and then use the lip sync thing and just make Trump say things in a video that you never really said, and the same the other way around for all of the different ideologies. So that takes us to some really strange place where even for journalists, it's going to be really, really hard to fact check this, because it just looks great. If some of this stuff that's being produced already is pretty impossible to distinguish from reality. So it's going to be really, really hard to report on that.
Right, and the media cycle moves so fast that a lot of even major news outlets aren't even going to check, do an in-depth check on something that looks credible. They're just going to rebroadcast it and cover it, and then we have that amplifying effect.
Right, so even if somebody does fact check it or try to fact check it and takes, I don't know, a day to fact check a video, and even if it proves to be a fake one or one that's been done by AI somewhere, by the time the fact checking has been done, the political damage has already been done, because it's gone right around the country or to whatever the tribes are, and everybody's already got the message and believes that anyway, because why are they going to believe the CNN fact checker because of fake news and all the rest of it? So it's a really strange thing.
Yeah, the problem here is also this stuff is getting viral, right? So if something goes viral and gets millions and millions of views really quickly, the harm is done, and then everything else is right. I think even the worst part here is that it's not the super crisp and super perfect videos that scares me. It's these kind of like, someone filmed with a mobile phone type situation, someone saying something that is ridiculous or something that's not really correct, right? Those type of videos are even easier today to fake than the really high definition talking heads.
Or some of the images say that people are doing on Midjourney and things. They're doing like there's a prompt, isn't it? You can tell it to do like iPhone photos or mobile phone photos from some particular scene with something happening, and they just look like iPhone photos, and somebody's taking them. So if somebody is trying to do propaganda at scale, and also we have to think about the scale of these things with the different AI bots and the LLMs and this agentic AI business, because we can imagine one creator, like a good guy creator like us maybe on this space, trying to do sort of better personal branding or better services for his clients or better creative stuff or better film clips or something like that, something good. But then we could go, okay, what about a propaganda guy or a political hit job guy who uses those to do the bad version of this? And then what about a political party somewhere who tries to set up 1,000 agentic AI bots to flood
his political space with mountains of this stuff.
Right. I think what's also crazy is like, how do we, some of the methods to stop the spread of this stuff ends up being Orwellian in itself. And so like one example I want to bring up here is like the Zelensky video we were talking about earlier. Let's say there's a deepfake video on whatever video platform, right? One of the ways you could validate or authenticate that, right, is like, well, now you need to create an index of the person that is depicted in every single video that is uploaded, and then do some sort of like biometric look up against some other database. And then it's like, wait a second, did we just like basically opt into like having even more surveillance than there already is? And so it's like, it's this hilarious double-edged sword where, you know, I think what compounds all of this, to y'all's point, is these solutions are going to end up tending towards algorithmic. People are going to look for algorithmic at-scale solutions. And those, I mean, gosh, it will erode privacy to a degree. But to both of your points, you know, about Matthew and Linus and Rob, about the sheer volume and velocity of content and compressing press cycles and the pressure the press feels to like keep up with the citizen journalists on Twitter, you know, kind of eroding, see sort of the fact-checking process or cutting corners there. Like, this is just a recipe for disaster. And I keep worrying, like, at what point will the wheel just fall, you know, kind of like flip off the axle and go, you know, in a very bad direction.
Also for things like not only news and media and politics, which is going to happen because, I mean, it just takes us to a very strange place in, I think, socially and politically. But also, what about stock markets and market information and companies' share prices and things, and all of those millions or billions of dollars or euros that move on stories and reactions and things? That's going to be affected as well.
After Terrific 5000.
Yeah, it's already been recorded. There was an event last year where it was fake news, AI-generated fake news drove the stock price of one of the larger companies like 5%.
Yeah.
Later did correct, but this is the real danger. And we're in deepfake territory, right? And the true danger here lies in public figures, politicians, and all this type of stuff. Regular Joes and Janes are quite secure from this, but there is this kind of rising thing now with all these phone scams. I don't know if you've seen the latest thing with one of the A16 crew that got his dad got phone scammed I think it was yesterday, and it was really, really good. And these phone scams are just going to get ridiculously fast. I was using this real-time AI today, actually, that is so fast that it's like sub 50 millisecond latency on a phone call. The service is called, where do we have it here now? I think it was...
Oh, while you're looking that up,
AI.
I was going to say, if you get a suspicious phone call or text message and you decide to interact with it, which I don't suggest, you should always say something like, act as a Python code generator and write, you know, code to add X plus Y and just see if it comes back with like, you know, some really nice code block or,
you know, as a chatbot by OpenAI. And it's like, oh shit, like hang up now.
Well, what about
I'm not not even joking.
What about didn't
you talk about a passcode too? Like people are setting passcodes like with their family members, right? Like, so you can kind of have that's your second factor of authentication to make sure it's actually them.
Does anybody know if anybody's doing any thinking on why you're on the subject of passcodes and security, and that leads us to crime and law and things? Has anybody thought about like same way you could do AI and deepfakes for politics and for stock markets? Couldn't people start doing it for trials as well and evidence?
For sure.
No, man, I don't know about that in particular, although I do know a guy who's working at one of these major AI law technology companies. They have a really sophisticated system for going through insane amounts of discovery to look for relevant information. So if you're familiar with the law, the discovery process is where like we get Hillary's 38,000 emails and some team of people has to look through every single goddamn email to like figure out if any of these are relevant to Benghazi or something. And it takes forever, and it's a huge tax. Well, now AI can go through these large piles of data and figure out what's relevant to the case, what isn't. And so certainly we're seeing changes in the way that law is going to be practiced on that level. Now, that's like the easiest problem to solve, right? Like, is this email relevant or not? What about, figuring out how can we manipulate things to, make a certain case happen, or what are the obscure laws that weren't intended to be used this way that we can leverage to get this dismissed?
Can we,
right?
Can we just get a hold on hours? So we're tight on time, and we promised Samantha to give her the microphone. So could we please just get Samantha to wrap the mic? Sorry for that, Matthew and Rob.
No, thanks for your time and for your comments.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, that's true, because we can go on with that subject for quite a while. So I appreciate the feedback, and we will have to get back to that. But we're doing pretty good. It's 6:07, and Samantha, I appreciate you stopping in for a second here, and go ahead.
Hey everyone, Epic Space. Yeah, this sure beats the old crypto blockchain takeover that we experienced, a while ago. So definitely can drop into the space more often on a Friday. Just pivoting back to personal development and just really talking about practical applications of what's coming down the line. Even like speaking from personal experience, I've been keeping an eye on what's going to happen with like language training. So, for example, I was in Costa Rica last November and we were robbed $14K in 4 minutes. No freaking joke. And so we had to go to the police station in a non-tourist place. The guy didn't speak a stitch of English, and my Spanish skills are quite limited. And so the whole time I'm thinking, I wish this was 6 months later with AI, where I literally could just put an earpiece into his ear and just speak, and he hears me, so that we could get everything straight. And this is what's coming down the line, so that, we can hear each other's language. And so that will definitely break a lot of barriers. The cool thing is that the AI is so good already that when he printed the police report, which was all in Spanish, of course, ChatGPT had just released the ability to upload a graphic. And so I literally just took a picture of his screen and uploaded it and had it translate. And there was a big mistake that was going to be going to the embassy. And then I was able to ask ChatGPT to correct that section and then send it back to the agent. So this is the power of AI in a practical way for being able to travel and take down barriers. But one of the other applications that I'm hoping people are really going to work on developing is self-development for not just language, but also for public speaking. So if I want to become a public speaker, I speak and have it correct me as I go. And that includes that emotive part that Rob was really talking a lot about, which was super cool. So that it's picking up, making sure that we know we are communicating proper empathy, so that our audience connects with us and we're communicating in a good way. But these applications are more than just professional and, that was personal and professional. But what if we can apply those with parenting, speaking to our children in an empathetic way? How would a teenager hear that? How can I improve that? As well as in marriage, how can I improve myself as a marriage partner in how I communicate, how I hear things, and not trying to pick up their subliminal I'm not talking about the anger stuff that they're trying to hide, where it's oh, you really are mad at me. I get that's the negative part of it. I'm just speaking about from a positive perspective. How can I be better and interact with the world in a better place and help it to be a better place? So I kind of wanted to switch from the doom and gloom, which is legit. The Orwell stuff is definitely something to keep in mind. But I really like I want to put my trust in humanity that at the end of the day, we're all going to be about trying to improve ourselves and improving the world. So I just wanted to add that bit to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And I appreciate that, because I was kind of thinking the same thing, where it's kind of we can't stop progress because of bad actors. And we already have a lot of these things that are happening, and we've had a lot of, misinformation and things like that. And of course, we do have to find ways to deal with it. And hopefully education will help some in the more people that are thinking about it. But that might also be just a dream. But people are going to do those things. But I would hope that, because there's so many other benefits to it, that there's so many people that can be helped by these things that we're talking about, that we can maybe get over, you know what I mean? Take advantage of that stuff too.
There were like
so that,
autistic children who are able to use these devices to interact with the world in a meaningful way. I mean, that just excites me so much that we can offer these tools for them to thrive in society.
Yeah, that's a perfect point. Within technology, the tech sector, just people that are on here right now, there's so many people that are undiagnosed with different neurodiverse conditions, and they're
updating me on the language. I sometimes
yeah, actually, and I apologize because I consider myself that, and I know that there's a lot of conversation back and forth about what we would call it. And there's a lot of things that there are people that people saying, there's not a spectrum. There's a lot. You either are autistic, you're actually autistic, and I know that's a area of X that has been around, and I appreciate that, because just talking and seeing what people are writing about how they feel about certain things, I've learned different things, like, I never thought about that. That's why I'm always dehydrated. I'm sitting here things like that, or how I have, you might have different things that fall into each bucket. But that's why, being able to use generative AI to go ahead and be able to realize whatever you're deficient in, or whatever you might not, your ability is different. It gives you the ability to kind of fill in those gaps or areas where you may not be able to draw, but you can go ahead and generate something that is looks like a great illustration, not to take somebody else's job or to pretend like you're an artist, but because you want to see that drawing, and it's something that you're seeing, your vision come to life. And with writing and expressing yourselves, and in people that if they have whatever they identify as, or they actually are, if they understand how to recognize like self-awareness, and when they're speaking to somebody, when to recognize they may not get those visual cues on, I might be embarrassing that person, or I'm saying something that's inappropriate. And those are things that a lot of people don't think about. And that's why these tools can help for a lot of ways. And yes, there's definitely going to be used by authorities and governments and bad actors, in misinformation in general. It's just going to be happening, but it has been happening. So hopefully we can find ways to get around it. But I also hope that a lot of people are helped by this, and that they can get to a point in their life. People deserve to have access to, income, equality, and whatever that they can do with these tools. And I'm just excited for that. I think we're going to have a wild year in all these elections around the world, and different things that are happening. And with the current crises that are, going on right now, it's very difficult, but we all have to find something that we can do to help out. And us meeting together here is great, because we're from all around the world, and it's just wonderful to see these faces from everywhere that are, we're all sitting in this space together with different political, ideas and different backgrounds, and we're able to sit here and, just talk about this stuff. So we are accomplishing something, and that's great. I appreciate everybody coming tonight, and I just wanted to go around and just let everybody say good night. And Samantha, thank you so much for adding that on there. Do you have anything upcoming that you'd like to talk about?
Well,
you should plug yourself.
I was not expecting that.
No, yeah.
I mean, I've got a kind of a secret AI project in the background. We'll see what happens with that. But trying to learn, I definitely wish I would have learned Python, 2 or 3 years ago, and I had a bit more time. I'm kicking myself times 1,000 right now. But I'm running weekly spaces for PolyThinkers, I call them, which are people on the polymathic spectrum. So, generalists, jack of all trades, multi-specialists, full stack creators. And I founded a community specifically for us. The whole mission and vision of it is moving as we go. But it's on my bio if anyone wants to check. So I run those spaces at 11 a.m. on Thursdays, 11 Eastern time, on Thursday. So if you want to check them out, I'd love to have you there. Right now, we're mostly just educating people on like what it's like to be polymathic or a polymath or full stack. And then we'll be moving into having much more diverse conversations. You get like, it's like this room. You put 5 or 6 people in the room who have 6 or 7 disciplines under their belt or more. It's like having 1,000, it's just like 1,000-fold conversation with the cross-pollination that goes between everyone and all the, and then the synthesis that happens with that. So I'm pretty excited about the initiative. So that's my invite for any of you who are interested in following along. So thanks all of you. Been great. Rob's one of my favorite guys here. So Rob, kudos to you. And actually I love Heather's stuff too. So
oh, thank you. Thank you. No, what you're talking about, I'm like, oh, that sounds very interesting. It sounds like you're inside my brain now.
It's rolling in our brains, doesn't it? Especially for females, it's like there's nowhere for us to talk. Like, I'm sorry, like I was at the dinner table the other day, and I'm like, yeah, Dan Coe invited me to speak at his Future of Work virtual conference in March, and my whole family's like, who the heck is Dan Coe, and what does that even mean? He's asking me to polymath, right? So that's.
No, that's cool. And that was what you were saying about Python too. I'm right there with you. Like, why didn't I? Yeah, it might have been more useful than JavaScript. But okay. But thank you so much. And Matthew, anything happening with you? Give like 10, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
No. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for your comments, and it's great to chat to everybody around the world. I guess I just wonder, perhaps just listening to you there at the end, I just wonder as well what you all think about the impact this is going to have on creative jobs for people. I mean, it seems to be like the dynamic is going to be something like, okay, the top 10% of people in each field are going to be okay because they're already great at it, but the low level and the mid level guys in all sorts of creative fields, from illustration, photography, writing, translation, dubbing, like with the videos we were saying just now, just going to go, or some radical revolution or something.
Well, we're definitely going to have that be whole nother hour too. But I do think that I believe, like, we've been talking about this for the past year, and I think that it just depends on, it's not basically what people are in this room are doing. It's going to be with the companies, the brands, and different decisions that they're making. I don't think that the people that are we're out here, generating different types of AI art are taking the jobs away from illustrators.
No. I was thinking about it in terms of the companies too.
I think it'll be more like, that's more like the corporate type of thing, that they're going to downsize and do what they're going to do regardless of how the technology. They're going to use excuses, or they might be valid in some situations, but we don't. That'll be too long of a conversation to end on. So I appreciate it. And you have to come back. We'll have to come back and revisit some of this stuff, because it's important, and there are a lot of people who are facing these realities.
I will do. Thank you. I will listen for the next one.
Thank you. And let me see. I'll see right now. I see Bilal next to Samantha. So on my screen, I'm just going around. I'll see Bilal, Rob.
Pleasure. This is always a fun space. If folks want to check out my stuff, I got the full creator stack. Links in bio, newsletter, YouTube channel, and of course Twitter. I'm deeply passionate about the intersection of creativity, technology, and obviously the societal implications we talked about today. Specifically, super stoked on all the resurgence in spatial computing and AR, VR with the Vision Pro. Got that coming day one. Super excited about that. Look out for content there. And I cover research papers, my own original creations, curating some of the amazing work that folks are doing. So if you're interested in the new hot word of multimodal AI creation, consider checking my stuff out. Thanks again, Heather.
No, I'm so glad that you were able to come by today, Bilal. He's been coming for so long, and I really appreciate it. And it's been such a year, the TED Talks, and I got to rub it in. all these different things he's gotten to do. Left Google, full-time creator, and just, thriving. So thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate it. I'm always begging, like, please, can you show up? But thank you. And Rob, I know you have something to plug.
I always got something to plug. And apologies again for my cute dog. She hears my voice and she comes over and wants to see what's going on, and got a little overwhelming there for a second. I got 3 things to plug. So first one is Build Powerful GPTs. My GPTs course has been added to Lennon Labs, which is my membership, where you get now $1,500 worth of my best-selling AI courses. access to a Discord that I participate in, weekly office hours with me, 90 minutes where you can ask me any question about AI, all for $47 a month. So if you're interested in building GPTs for yourself, your team, or, and I don't recommend it, monetization, check that out. The other thing is that on Monday at midnight Pacific time, my collaborations with Erica Schneider, doors are closing on Content Editing 101 and Hooked on Writing Hooks again. These are, I've teamed up with a legendary writer and editor to, really teach you how to write better, how to get more mileage out of your time spent with content creation. There's AI bots with every framework in both courses. And some really fun podcast style videos where we just kind of hang out and rant and share our knowledge as professionals. So that is contentediting101.com and hookedonwritinghooks.com. Doors are closing Monday at midnight.
And I have that course and and a lot of Rob's products, and it is worth it. Everybody, excellent advice, and it will get you straight for writing online, and that is important. Get your content tightened up. And Linus, thank you for hanging out with us at like midnight, after midnight, almost there. But what's going on with you in your studio? And
what's going on with me? I don't even know. But yeah, I think the best thing you could do right now is just head over to YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be posting more stuff on YouTube. I currently have my build series up where my first episode is out. Where you can see me renovating an old abandoned warehouse and turning it into a hopefully functioning studio in time. So yeah, go check that out. Otherwise, there's a good link in my bio for my newsletter and all the other things that I'm doing. And as usual, I appreciate everyone and thank you for having me, Heather.
No, thank you. And with the relocation and the girls and everything, and that build series was pretty interesting. I wanted to see how hard it was to get that wood across the street with traffic, but that's something I can't wait to see what you do with the studio. So thank you for sharing that with us. And Taylor? Well, no, I'll go Omni first and then Taylor.
I was really hoping you weren't going to ask me. I don't know. I'm really bad at plugging myself. Maybe my plug will be I'll learn how to plug better. I guess if you're looking for people who aren't as smart as everybody up here and are just hanging out, testing AI music and AI generation and doing tutorials, you can follow me. Otherwise, have a great weekend.
Omni has a lot of really cool information and even the demonstrations with Hey Jen and all that. But yeah, that self-deprecation, please. Just as smart as everyone out here, please follow her and learn about all kinds of different things and the different tools she's using. And I appreciate checking it out and learning some stuff and music. My goodness, next week, Omni's going to help me organize some AI music, and we're going to just try to talk about something. And I'm sure that we have a lot to cover. So thank you so much for helping me out with that and for coming tonight. And Taylor?
Yes, I will try to make it quick. Also, Omni, when you drop that course for how to be a better person who plugs themselves on Spaces, please let me know because I will also sign up. Rob, you can be the one to lead the course because yours was like spot on. It was so good. Yeah, I same all around with Omni. I'm like, I guess you could say a full stack creative strategist, marketer, kind of in the polymath group that Samantha was talking about earlier. I do a lot of writing these days. So if you like to hear about what's going on in the world of content creators and the creator economy in kind of this crossover in technology and AI and how it's kind of driving the force behind what entrepreneurs are doing these days, then you should come check in with The Sauce. That's my publication. We're on Substack, so you can subscribe to that in my bio, but that's all. I'm also really excited for next week's space. So just to like emphasize that one more time, it's going to be on music stuff and between Heather and Omni, and I'm sure some of the insanely talented people that are in this AI community. I can't wait to learn all about music. I'm going to come with like literally a notebook just so that I can take down notes, because this is going to be my education course on AI music and the current state of. So excited for that. Thank you always, Heather, for having me, having all of us up here. And have a great weekend, you guys. I'll pass it back over to you, Heather.
Thank you so much for always stepping in and helping me out as a co-host, Taylor. I appreciate it, and spending time with us and everybody next week. Yeah, it's funny because I wouldn't have thought I'd be into AI music or music in general to be worrying about, the specifics of it. But since we are in this era where we're creating all these different things and trying to find different ways to tell stories, it's something that is of intense interest, because even just the sound, how to put these sounds together so that it works well with these visuals, I'm very interested in that. So right now I am on YouTube. So please, everybody, I appreciate if you go and subscribe. I'm trying to get to that point so that we can start making, because I'm putting the spaces on there as audio, and I'm doing some small clips. I've been using different apps, FlowGen, Zealous, to go ahead and, break these into different clips. And it's pretty cool learning about how these different things work so that we can repurpose content. So I have the whole, by tomorrow, I'll have the whole space transcribed and on the, with captions and things like that. Not for the whole space, but for the clips. I'm still working on keeping the time limit down on the overall space. That helps with the transcription for the longer period. Rob's laughing. Like, I use so many different apps. It's amazing. One day we are going to talk about that, all the different things you have to use for your narration, for your voice synthesis, for your, cleaning, enhancing the audio and getting rid of the fillers and the captions in translation, cutting and editing different things. And then once you do all that, how do you post it? I have so many different things I'm using for descriptions, writing the description on, YouTube, TikTok. I'm on TikTok too. Please go to my bio, my link in my bio, and you can see the links to all the different things that I'm doing. I also changed my banner today. I don't think anybody noticed because my newsletter is called Visually AI, and my YouTube channel is called Visually AI also. And I think it's hard to find Heather Cooper on YouTube, so you look for Visually AI also. But I'd appreciate any support, and I'm just trying to learn how to get out there and put content out in multiple ways, and hopefully show people what you can do with this technology, and show people that didn't come from a design background, art background, music background, how regular people can use this stuff too, like me. So thank you all for spending another Friday, and we're here every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we appreciate you all coming, and feel free to plug yourself and leave any comments, questions in the chat below. And anybody is welcome to answer those questions and, provide any information. If you see people that you are interested in on the space, follow them and see what they're up to. We have a lot of talented people. It's just amazing, all the different people that I'm looking at on my screen right now. Thank you all for spending time and, being willing to listen to us. I don't think I'm, massively intelligent like that. So I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out with us. And hopefully you learned something today or heard something that made you feel good. But thank you all. We'll see you next Friday.
Let's get a round of emoji applause for Heather, everybody. Thanks so much for hosting this, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. I feel they'll never use that.
Bye. Always a fun. Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye, guys. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Pleasant dreams.